What's up, guys? I just bought this 2016 Freightliner Roll-Off truck, sight unseen, out of Pennsylvania. It just showed up here the other day. It actually showed up extremely early in the morning before I even showed up to work, so I don't have any footage of this getting unloaded off of the lowboy. Now, I have looked at this truck a little bit because it's been here a couple days, but we haven't done any full testing on it. All I know is that the engine runs and that it does drive, at least to get back here, but it does have some issues, and I knew it had some issues when I bought it. So let's take a closer look, talk about some of those issues, and talk about what the plan is going forward. So like I said, this truck is a 2016 Freightliner with a DD13 Detroit engine. It has an 8-speed manual transmission. I'll show you the inside in a minute, and then we will even fire it up. It has not been running today, and it is pretty cold, so I'm pretty curious myself how well it will fire up. The reason why I needed or wanted this particular roll-off truck is because it has the roll-off frame set up to run both the inside and the outside rail containers. So you can see a normal roll-off container rides on these rollers right on the outside of the frame, and our Dempster dyno style containers ride on the inside of the frame, and you can see there's rollers built into the inside of the frame, and it has this wall here. So this roll-off system can run both style containers, which is what we need because we run the inside rail containers but want to slowly start switching over to the more regular outside rail roll-off containers. Now, one of the biggest issues that this truck has, or that we know that it has when we purchased it, is the DPF is disconnected from the exhaust pipe. So you can see this is just hanging in here, and the clamp for the exhaust is sitting off. So I have already reconnected that. My thought process was I'll reconnect it, see if we could manually regen it with our scan tool, and when I reconnected the DPF, it spit and sputtered, and then the engine just turned off. I only did that one time. I don't want to cause any damage to the engine, so we're probably just going to pull the DPF off, send it to a shop to have it cleaned, and then hopefully just reinstall it and not have any more issues going forward. If we have to buy a new DPF, it's going to be a lot more expensive. Also, another issue that this truck came with, but we knew about it because they had it listed on the auction catalog, was it had a flat tire on the outside. So by the time it got picked up, it actually had 2 flat tires, so we decided to go ahead and change both of them. And in that process, we discovered that this outside rim had a very small crack in it, and so it was no good. You can see we've got a different rim on the front axle than the back, and they probably wouldn't notice this unless it's pointed out, at least in passing, but the holes in the aluminum wheel are a little bit smaller in the wheel we put on it. That's just all we had here, so that's what we went with for now. Eventually we will probably change it back out to have the same size as the rear, but for now it's good enough. The rest of the truck is in really good shape. It's got a pretty nice tarp system. I like how it's set up compared to our current setups. They seem to have, or like it would have, less issues than sort of the rack and pinion style. Ours has the rack and pinion style set up here where you got the hydraulic cylinder that pushes out against the gear and that sends the arm back. This one looks simpler and easier, so I'm excited to try that out. And one of the other major concerns with this truck coming from Pennsylvania was rust. So I did call the auction company before it was sold and sort of asked them what they thought it looked like rust wise. They're in Pennsylvania. They said they thought it looked pretty good, and I was like, well, I'm in North Carolina, and our idea of good or bad rust could be very different. So actually, while I was on the phone with the guy, he went out and crawled underneath the truck and was telling me what he saw and reassured me that the truck really doesn't have any bad rust, and I would say that he was absolutely correct. It does have a little surface rust here and there. There's some areas we're going to hit with a wire wheel and just sort of repaint to make it look a little bit better, but there's really not any bad rust or rot anywhere. So, you know, on this hydraulic tank, we're going to hit all these areas, knock that flaky rust off, or the flaky paint rather, and then just repaint it to make it look a little bit better. The inside of the truck is pretty decent. I mean, it is an 8-year-old truck. It's probably been in and out of landfills its whole life, so it's a little bit dirty, and this seat does have a rip in it. So before we put it on the road, we'll probably pull this seat bottom off and send it to an upholstery shop and get it redone. But the dash is not cracked. Everything's in pretty good shape. The truck does have about 225,000 miles on it, which really isn't that bad in my opinion. And overall, I'm definitely happy with how it turned out. So we'll see if it'll fire up. It's been sitting back here for a couple days, but keep in mind that DPF is still disconnected. So fires right up, builds good oil pressure. It does take a second to build air pressure. This is an air ride truck, which is different from all of our roll-offs. And of course we've got check engine lights, DPF light, and everything else because those systems are disconnected. So we will have to get to the bottom of that. But it really does run very well. Well, I went ahead and turned the engine back off. I was trying to talk over it and I realized that it was pretty loud with that exhaust disconnected. But this truck is set up really heavy duty. It's actually more heavy duty than any of our current roll-off trucks. This one has a 20,000 pound steer axle, then it has a 20,000 pound drop axle, and that one is actually a steerable pusher. So that's extremely nice. All our current roll-off trucks just have a stationary axle that you have to put down and pull up anytime you go around a turn. Then it has 46,000 pound rears, which is extremely nice. And like I just mentioned a second ago, this truck is air ride. None of our current trucks are air ride. And so this one will probably ride a lot better. I don't have much experience with an air ride roll-off truck, so we'll see how that goes. I am super excited to have a truck this heavy duty. We, for the most part, err on the side of caution whenever we're servicing customers with containers when they have extremely heavy material like steel sheet. If we put too big of a container, they are oftentimes overloading it, so we have to put a smaller container and service it more regularly. With a truck of this magnitude, in theory, we should be able to put a slightly larger container, which would cut down on the amount of services that they need, because it would maybe take them a couple days or a couple weeks longer to fill that container, and we can get more weight per haul. So that should make us a little bit more efficient, but we also still don't want to overload this truck, so we'll just have to figure that out as we go. But overall, from everything I can see so far, it's exactly what I expected. The auction company did a fantastic job describing this truck, answering my questions, making me feel comfortable with the purchase, and I'm very, very pleased and happy with the purchase. So you guys may be wondering why we want to switch to the cable style roll-off instead of the current system that we're using. And it's really just because they're more universal. They're easier to find containers for. The containers are cheaper when you purchase them. When we purchase a new container for our current style truck, they're $2,000 more per piece to have that Dempster Dinosaur understructure put on rather than just the standard roll-off rails. Also, the reason why we want to start getting into these containers or this style truck is because we have a ton of containers sitting on the yard all back here that we have saved that will work on that truck but not our current truck, which leads us to another problem or potential business opportunity, and that is getting into another type of roll-off business, whether it be trash or other recyclables like wood or cardboard, plastic, things of that nature, because we have about 70 containers back here on the yard that are currently not being used. The smaller containers that have the hook lift style hook and the cable style hook, we are using those with our hook lift customers that are putting metal in them, but they're not great for the metal industry because you got to have some pretty dense, heavy material to make it worthwhile using that container. So over the next several months, we've got to explore several different opportunities and come up with some plans and ideas on what we want to do with all these containers. But it's definitely exciting to at least have an option now to use these containers to potentially generate additional revenue. So I'll keep you guys posted on that. If we decide to expand our services, I'll certainly let you guys know, and I'll definitely take you along for the journey and let you know how that's working out. But the best part about this truck is we can use it with our current style containers and all of these style containers. So in a pinch, if we're out of 40-yard containers, but we got 5 40 yards for that style truck, we can use it instead of having a customer wait. We just have to remember that only that truck can go get this container and not our old truck. So there will be some logistical things that we need to keep in mind and not make errors, or we'll be sending trucks on dry runs. Anyways, thank you guys for watching. I'll be sure to keep you posted on any updates relating to this truck or these dumpsters. But as always, thank you guys for watching. If you haven't already, hit that subscribe button, and we'll see you on the next one.